Today in the crypto space, we see some green price action in the market. A lot of these altcoins definitely going to higher levels. Bitcoin still around that $44,000 mark. Hovering around that level is super bullish for the altcoin market. And Ethereum leading the way to higher levels, however, taking a bit of a break in the immediate short term. In today's video, I want to talk about the general market. I want to use Bitcoin as a leading indicator, but more importantly, I want to talk about one project that has been doing very well, the rock of the market, Cardano. So you know what, let's talk about the news, let's analyze the charts, and let's strategize to capitalize. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mike, and let's get right into it, guys. If you're new to the channel, welcome. On the channel, we talk about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the altcoins, looking for opportunities, whether we go up or down, bearish or bullish, it doesn't matter. All we want to do is stay one step ahead of the market so that we can capitalize on any of the volatility. And if you appreciate that strategy, subscribe to the channel and click that bell so you don't miss out on any of my future videos, including the live streams at 7:30 Eastern, where we talk about crypto news and price action. Guys, if you have any projects you want me to cover here on the channel, feel free to let me know in the comment section below. You can hit me up on the socials. The links are in the description. And of course, guys, join the Discord. The Discord is where it's at. Lots of good alpha, trade setups, fundamentals, and learning material. Guys, it's a great community to kind of bounce ideas off of. So feel free to join. All right, guys, let's get right into this. Let's see what's going on here with Bitcoin. Bitcoin going sideways. You know, I usually use Bitcoin as a leading indicator. And of course, as long as Bitcoin stays around this zone, hovering around, and of course, that $43,000 to about $45,000 level, guys, for me, it's about altcoin season. Bitcoin going sideways, Bitcoin looking boring, gives a lot of room for, number one, Ethereum to wake up. And it already did break a bit of trend. And it's, you know, kind of going sideways right now, but it's okay. It might be a continuation to the upside. And then we also have a lot of the other altcoins waking up. BNB coming up 3%. XRP, Solana, and the list goes on. But of course, today is about Cardano, the man of the match, finally waking up. Cardano's finally getting a bit of interest. 40% to the upside in the last 7 days. 18% of it has been within the last 24 hours. Guys, I've been referring to Cardano as the rock. And the reason why is because ultimately, Cardano, it is slow moving in the sense that the ecosystem has been gradual, very slow moving, but very consistent in the sense that we don't hear a bunch of FUD about Cardano. Cardano, at the end of the day, tech-wise, is one of the most solid projects out there. However, guys, as we see the Cardano ecosystem finally flourish and develop over time, slow and steady, obviously, we're going to see some bullishness, and Cardano finally woke up and is now blasting to the upside. Now, from a price action perspective, we'll definitely take a look at it. But even from the price action perspective, guys, the risk to reward ratio was absolutely healthy. And this is one of the reasons why I've been talking about Cardano in the last little while, saying, look, Cardano's looking good. Especially 2 days ago live, I made it very clear that Cardano's was looking very bullish. We'll talk about that in a second, but let's continue going down here, what's going on in this market. Even Doge is waking up a little bit. AVAX looking strong, 10% today. We have Chainlink pushing to higher levels, breaking up the previous price action, the consolidation, which is really good. Polkadot running, Polygon Matic. We see a lot of these blue chips running up now that that Ethereum is kind of hesitant. We're seeing the money flow into the large caps. Now, Ethereum can wake up again and continue, right? And then we're going to see some of these larger caps go sideways a little bit. Then, of course, it's going to bounce back and forth until the market sees a bit of frothiness, and then slowly we'll start seeing a lot of the smaller caps, the mid caps, the low caps, the micro caps, and so on and so forth. And what I'm going to be doing in the next little while is speculating. I'm going to be looking at opportunities, of course, opportunities where we could definitely look for projects that are basically in uncharted territory. Projects that might be a bit more speculative, of course, those micro caps, maybe even NFTs, guys. I'm thinking about buying an NFT, and of course, stay tuned, guys, because I'll let you know what I'm going at lately. But I'm trying to, you know, diversify within, diversify my portfolio within the broadness of risk. I want to get into some risky assets, of course, because we know that the rewards are pretty high. But if you do some research, the risk kind of gets diminished, and that's really what I've been doing lately, is doing a lot of research. So I'm going to be doing that in the next next little while, keeping you guys up to date on the next steps. Ultimately, keep in mind that Ethereum right now is giving us that indicator that altcoins are going to be one of the movers. Let's see what happens in the immediate short term with regards to ETH. If that breakout was actually an actual breakout or a fake out, either way, we'll keep an eye on it. Let's continue going on here. We have Monero kind of going sideways. Cosmos, Atom doing pretty good, 6.5% to the upside, and Filecoin a little bit. A lot of the market right now is definitely in the green. A lot of good gainers, 5 to 7%, 10%, give or take. Render, another 10% move to the upside. Still within range, though. Just keep in mind, still within range. ARB doing its thing. Stacks, 5% to the upside. Algo, finally. Algo's waking up, 12% to the upside, guys. I like Algorand. I like AVAX. I like Neo Protocol. I like so many of these layer ones, and I understand that they're not hot. I understand that they're not new. I understand that a lot of them are from previous bull markets. However, guys, they're in a different phase. The reality is that they, tested the bear market bottom. They've basically held up. Now it's about fundamentals. The reality is, how much of the market can they absorb? Meaning, ecosystem wise, how strong is their ecosystem going to be? If we see some of these layer ones do well, it's very likely that we will see them hang around in the future. They're not new, not speculative. They're in ecosystem building phase. All right, guys, what else do we have here? We have Gala looking pretty good. Phantom, another layer one that's looking pretty healthy. Ordinal's taking a bit of a pullback, but guys, ultimately, who cares? This thing's up significantly. We have IOTA coming down a little bit. KuCoin going sideways. EOS waking up a little bit. A lot of the layer ones doing good. Bonk is still grinding to the upside. Pith Network up 10%. Doing pretty good. Big Cat going sideways. Beam taking a bit of a dip, but nothing crazy. CFX going sideways. And you can see that a lot of the market is still in the green, despite some sideways, despite some projects taking a bit of a breather. Generally speaking, 5 to 10% to the upside across the board, across the top 100 is definitely here. So good stuff overall in this market. Just keep in mind, it is Friday. We're leading into the weekend. The weekend volatility could be brutal, so be careful there. The order books get very thin and volatile. So we got to be very protective with our gains and our initial investments, our capital out there. So make sure that you practice some good risk management. All right, guys, I know you're here to talk about charts. Let's begin talking about Bitcoin. Bitcoin at the end of the day, guys, is kind of going sideways here. Seeing Bitcoin hesitate here is really healthy for the altcoin market, but not so healthy for Bitcoin in this case. We see Bitcoin hovering around the zone, which means that we could get a bit of a rejection. Maybe this was a fake out. Maybe it's a bit of a fake out. We see Bitcoin come down and eventually give us a nice big structure here that takes time to build. And during that time, as it's building that sideways structure, we see Ethereum run and give us that indication that an altcoin season is still in the works. So this is really bullish in the medium short term for the altcoin market, but Bitcoin at the end of the day, with this divergence that's building, not so much. All right, guys, let's take a look at this in a little bit more detail. So ultimately, if we see the market pull back, if we see Bitcoin, kind of come down a little bit, it's okay. At the end of the day, it was an upward sloping channel. Statistically speaking, it should have broken down bearish anyway. But we saw it break above. We saw it right now break above that diagonal, the top of the trend line, which is beautiful, nice. But at the end of the day, if it comes back down and it doesn't get support at the top of this diagonal, the trend line, it's not looking good. It's like you come back into the channel, maybe come back up and get rejected, as a back test, and then come right back down and hit that $30,000 zone. 30,000, 31,000, and even as low as 25, guys, I'm bullish. I'm buying the dip. Now, I may not be buying Bitcoin on those dips. I may be buying altcoins, low caps, micro caps, maybe some NFTs, whatever the case is. But ultimately, a pullback on Bitcoin could be in the works very soon, guys. This is one of the reasons why I am not getting into any fresh longs on Bitcoin. Look at the bearish divergence test here. Yes, it could get invalidated, but guys, given where Bitcoin is, we got a divergence here, lower high on these two tops, and also lower highs on all of this price action right here or momentum right here. So for me, ultimately, It looks very frothy. It looks very risky, and I'm not interested in getting into any risky positions currently. I want to be able to keep all my gains. The MACD also bearish divergence. Let's see what this EMA goes. Ultimately, it is in the bullish control zone, but is it overheated? Is it done? The question is it done? Is it done pushing? If it gets an EMA cross and starts coming down to the downside for a bit of a dip, guys, we'll be ready because, of course, on the daily, a dip could be quite big, and it could be very, very advantageous for us to be looking for opportunities during that dip. So that's why we're going to keep an eye on it. All right, guys, let's move on. Bitcoin is doing its thing. While Bitcoin is doing its thing, we're going to see Ethereum do its thing, of course, and take full advantage of it. But what about the large cap altcoins? Of course, the first indication of the cycling of the money flow, right? So Cardano. Let's talk about Cardano. What's happening with Cardano? Ultimately, let's reverse this. Let's back it up a little bit, because ultimately what we really got to do is learn at what happened here. It was a descending wedge. Descending wedge, statistically speaking, should break out bullish. We hit that horizontal. Nice horizontal level of support that we identified here on the channel early on. That was the DCA opportunity. Bought here, we came back up, got rejected off the volume gap. Nice sell opportunities, guys. Look at these opportunities. Red arrows, guys. These charts are all available on the Discord. I make them all available for, basically just to be transparent, to keep my strategy accountable. At the end of the day, look at this: buying low, selling high. Buying low, selling high. Now that we've bought again, whether you're trading in and out of this market on the 4-hour, on the daily, whatever it is, you can now rest assured that these two bottoms were strong bottoms of support, right? So we can move on from them. Now, as we keep on climbing, we got a huge wick a huge candle that basically broke out previous resistance. We picked up enough bullish bids at lower levels to suggest that now we're going to continue to the upside. The good news is that now we're in a zone that could show us a bit of weakness. We could basically blast right through this 56 cents all the way to 78 cents very, very quickly. The reality is that we blasted through all this price action that should have acted as support, as resistance, and it didn't. So now that we look at this volume gap, you can see that there's very little volume here to act as resistance. This is the last line in the sand for the bears. If they're going to make this come down, they got to do it now. So let's see what happens. Let's see if the bulls have enough strength to break above this zone and get into the volume gap. You can see that as we enter the volume gap, we do not have much price action to act as resistance. Look at these gaps, these empty zones. Obviously, there's some parts of it that are more weak, and we'll emphasize that by doubling up on these boxes. And you can see that this is a weak zone, in comparison to down here, but down here is still very weak. If we continue going up, guys, 78 cents is the target, but you got to be modest at the end of the day as well. We could continue getting rejected here. That's the truth. And you're going to be talking about, look, am I being greedy? From the lows to where we are right now, you're up 100%. You could have doubled your money, and a viable strategy is to take half on the double, meaning take your initial investment, your initial capital off the trade, and leave the house money to run. That's the beauty about buying the dips, buying lows, not breakout trading, buying lows, momentum, looking at momentum. When it's oversold, that's when you start looking for positions. Speaking of oversold, look where we were. Class A bullish divergence, lower lows on the price action, higher lows on the RSI, and finally we got a nice follow through to the upside. Beautiful, beautiful price action. MACD is super nice. EMA is facing up, green histogram bars to the upside. Beautiful scenario right there. And yes, the RSI is still in the bullish control zone, which means that ultimately it's overbought and it might stay here for a little bit more as Cardano keeps on pushing to the upside. Now, what you should be doing is having a plan. Now, it's either take half on the double or trailing up a stop loss, a triggered stop loss, just in case this thing decides to come back down and test maybe the point control zone at about 40 cents. This is an area that the price action could come back down and test for some support. 40-cent zone, right? We got a little bit of a volume gap, got the point of control, we got the previous highs right here, previous lows, a lot of good confluence here for a bit of a back test. But it's still, as we speak, there's no sign of weakness. Let's go into lower time frames, look at the 4-hour. The MACD and the RSI are still looking really good. Look at the RSI is definitely overbought. You can't deny that, but no signs of bearish divergence just yet. Still higher highs on the RSI, looking good, and higher highs on the price action. And the same thing with this MACD. EMAs are facing up. Green histogram bars are nice and green and facing up in the bullish control zone. Guys, it's very likely that we see Cardano continue pushing to the upside in the immediate short term, but you shouldn't be taking risk. You should always be protecting not only your initial investment, your initial capital, but your gains as well. Protect the gains at all costs. Okay, guys, so looking pretty good. Momentum wise, looking great. Price action wise, this is the zone where I would be defensive. So let's reuse some of this. Let's actually, let me just duplicate this arrow, put it right here, one over here, and we got to understand that, look, if we break through the volume gap, we got these previous highs here that should act as resistance. Not looking good. If we get there and we get a bit of a hesitation, you want to protect those gains because you're looking at least another 100% if we get up there. And then you got to admit that there's a bit of a difference in the volume here and that we could get a bit of a reaction, but I'm not going to put a red arrow there. I'm going to remove the red arrow. Just keep in mind that this whole zone is weak, but there are some spots that are weaker than others. Okay, so the major weakness really does begin into this area. So ultimately, again, if you take a measurement from where we are right now as a breakout, now we're looking for a bigger breakout, you can get another 100%, another 40%. But from where we were at the bottom, again, if you happen to scale in here at the bottom where I was buying the dip, ultimately, look, you're up 200% very easily, right? And this was around previous January, previous December, Christmas time, where I was DCAing into the low cap, the large cap altcoins, Algorand, Cardano, all of these guys, keeping a nice hefty bag just in case it decided to wake up. I didn't want to miss out. Now, yes, I had my capital locked up in it, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You're making those gains. Those gains are looking really, really spicy right now, and definitely you want to protect them. So ultimately looking like it could continue. A lot of the layer ones could continue as well, based on Ethereum's lead. And of course, tonight at 7:30 Eastern, we'll be talking about the potential scenario coming forward from an altcoin season. What should we expect, and how should we prepare? And be prepared to join me tonight at 7:30 Eastern, where we talk about crypto news and price action. Guys, if you want to follow me on the socials, the links are in the description below. Feel free to join that Discord, guys. The Discord is a great community. Lots of good alpha, trade setups, fundamentals, and learning material. Take care, guys. Have a good one. And don't forget, buy the dip,